Not going to mess up on the recording this time.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all.
Hi.
Being here. We have a quorum. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 12 o'clock with all 4 governing council members present. Um, I have not heard from Kendra, but she does have a blanket permission to not be at the meetings during her chemotherapy. She is struggling quite a bit, so please keep her in your thoughts. And then I will be able to bring her up to date later. So that's why Kendra is not here. She might jump on in a few minutes if she can and if she feels up to it. Okay, I think we're just waiting for Mr. Jones. There's no. Okay, can I go ahead and get an approval of the agenda?
Move Channing.
Thanks, Channing. Can I get a second?
I'll second Melinda.
Thank you, Malinda. Roll call, Channing? Yeah. Malinda?
Aye.
Eddie?
Hi.
And I motion passes with all members in the affirmative. Today we have Bryn McCabe with us. Hello, Bryn. How are you doing today? Good to have you on with us. Do you have any public input? It's not, she can catch up with us. Okay, I'm going to move on to the approval of the minutes. And Melinda caught a, got my notes here. Are you there? Are you here with us, Donna? Melinda, do you want to go over the issue that you found with the minutes?
Well, on the first page, about 2/3 of the way down, it said January minutes. And it's February minutes. But this paragraph, I don't know how we correct it. Carlson asked for a motion to approve the October minutes. Note that, October. Tafoya motion to approve the September minutes. Concho seconded the motion. A roll call vote was held and passed unanimously.
Yeah, we probably want to clear that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can fix that. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Okay, did you get all those changes, Donna?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Was there any other problems, Melinda?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's um let's go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes with the proposed changes and corrections to the first paragraph of the body of the minutes that starts with January minutes.
So move.
Thank you, Eddie. Second?
I'll second.
Great. The roll call vote, Eddie?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Ann? Carolyn? Aye. Motion passes with all members present voting in the affirmative. Great. Okay. Hi, Ashley. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Can you just give me permission to share my screen?
There you go. It's all yours.
Let's see. Can you guys see my screen? There it goes. Okay, so first page on the revenue report, all reimbursements are up to date. We did receive our first 2 quarters in lease assistance. We're still waiting on the 40th day adjustment. During our winter conference this last month, We did receive an increase in the unit value, so we should be receiving more than what we originally expected for the extra 10 students that the school had. So we should have an increase bar by next month for that. But other than that, everything is up to date for reimbursements. On the expenditure report, you will see that we're still negative right now in operational because we haven't received that 40th day adjustment. So hopefully that will change next month. Let's see. We did receive a decrease in Title I, so I will have to move some of those expenses into operational. And we are currently meeting MOA, so I am using some expenses out of IDB. See, Title II, the school has about 7,000 available. Title IV, right now we are fully spending it down. We should hopefully receive a carryover letter in the next few weeks. So hopefully we'll get some extra funds there. And let's see. Instructional materials, the school has about 1,100 available. The school still has about 13,000 available in that litter control and beautifications grant. Let's see, special capital outlay, we have 395,000 available. We are working on spending down those projects. And HB 33, the school has 140,000 available. SB 9, the school has 25,000 available. And then SB 9 state cash match, the school has 21,000 available there.
Ashley, what's the reason for the decrease in the Title I?
I'm not too sure. This PAD uses some calculation for that. So I think it does, student count definitely contributes to it, but I'm not sure like the exact calculation. Some of my schools received increases, some received decreases. But I think it does pertain more towards student count. It just
Okay.
depends on that. So if you had a drop, you'll probably have a decrease.
Okay, that explains that then.
So this page is the bank account register activity report. So these are all the deposits and withdrawals that were made during the month. Let me know if you have any questions on anything that was paid or deposited.
And we haven't received any of the capital outlay money that we received this year, correct?
No, so we have submitted some quotes to spend it down. I think we have used part of it. I received some more invoices this last week that I need to process, and then we'll be able to request for reimbursement. But so far, we're on track to spend it down. I know the school had about, I think it was about 20,000 that was gonna expire this year, but Chris already was able to spend that down. So yeah, we're on track to use it.
Okay, great.
Any questions on anything that was paid?
A question. Who's Clifton Larson Allen?
That is the auditors.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other ones? No questions? Okay, so moving down, these are all the outstanding purchase orders that we have still open. So just a reminder, dollar is a reoccurring expense, and then the regular is just a one-time expense.
Okay.
And then any POs that are open that we don't use by the end of the year, then those funds will just go back into the budget. Okay, and then the next page is going to be the bank reconciliation. So ending balance per the bank was $427,153.21 minus the outstanding check. So the expected GL balance was $379,380.06. And then the next few pages is the balance sheet. So it's just going to show the bank account balance per fund at the top and then the carryover per fund at the bottom. And if they're negative at the top, those are usually reimbursement funds. So going down, first bar is 15-I. So this is the increase bar for this SB9 state cash match for $4,137.91. And then the second bar that I have is a decrease for Title I for $10,420.15.
And is the decrease for Title I to address the
So yeah, so that was the decrease that I mentioned before. Yeah. Any questions? That's all I have. If anyone has any other questions?
we'll be able to talk about the audit, correct? After this?
Yeah, I can discuss the audit.
Okay. Let's go ahead and do the approval on these two bars right now, though, to get them out of the way. Okay. Can I get an approval for financial bars number FY26 501-0002526 -0016, decrease of $10,428.15, and also FY 26 501-000-2526 -0015 I for an increase of $4,137.91. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve, Malinda.
Malinda,
Mhm.
Channing second. Great. Roll call, Malinda,
Aye.
Channing, Eddie,
Aye.
Carolyn, I motion passes with all members present voting in the affirmative. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the audit.
Okay, so for the audit, I will go over the audit findings right now. Okay, so this year the audit, it was a little rough. We did get about 7 audit findings. There's a few reasons why. So I'll go over each finding and how we have corrected it. So the first one is internal controls overcompensated absences. So this is a new GASB that was implemented this year, and this was for leave payouts. The school does not pay out leave when an employee leaves, but we do have to record it now on our financials if the employee would be paid out. There was an instance, I believe last year, where the previous administrator was sending payroll leave slips a lot later than what he should have. So there was some employees that left the school that should have been docked days and they weren't. So this ended up being an audit finding. It says 3 employees received 22 additional hours of paid leave beyond their accrued balance, resulting in an overpayment of $1,069.83. So just to correct this, Mr. Jones is just sending payroll leave slips within a timely manner, so that way the employees are docked within that pay period.
Yeah, we also maintain a spreadsheet. So we have a spreadsheet that we've shared with our payroll specialist, and it is it's a year at a glance. So it includes every single leave request that's been made from the beginning of the year until, present date. So just wanted to add.
Next finding is for pledge collateral. This is a repeat finding just because I was kind of going back and forth with the bank to have them send me the monthly pledge collateral statements. I was finally able to set it up this year, but they would not send me the pledge collateral for June of 2025. They kept saying that the auditors had to request it, and then the auditors were trying to request it, and the bank would not give it to them, or it was very confusing. We were kind of going back and forth. So they ultimately did give the school finding for this. But I was able to set up the pledge collateral to be sent to my email monthly. So I do have record of all of that. So this finding is already corrected for this year. And next finding was financial close and reporting on capital assets. So there was one capital asset that was not originally identified as capital asset because the price of the item was less than 5,000, and usually to be classified as a capital asset, it has to be 5,000 or more. But because of the labor cost to install that that asset was more, it should have been capitalized on. So I think the asset was 2,000, but to install it, it was extra 8,000. So in total, the asset was 10,000, but it wasn't classified as capital asset. So I just had to add it to the fixed asset list. So this is also corrected. Internal controls over cash receipts. So 4 out of 7 receipts tested, the school was unable to provide a cash log or pre-numbered receipt to support the deposits that were made within 24 hours of receipts for receipts totaling $12,417. So with these, usually Courtney sends me the bank deposit backup for every deposit that the school makes. There were some deposits at the beginning of the year where the school didn't make a copy of the check or didn't, I guess, save the backup for the deposit. So we did correct it, but unfortunately, some of the samples that they pulled were from the beginning of fiscal year 25. So that didn't have that backup. So we did get a finding for that. But since then, Courtney sends me all the bank deposit backup within a timely manner. So this is also corrected.
Ashley, was this part of the problem under our prior administrator?
I believe so. I think there was just a lot of I guess stuff just slipping through the cracks. I know Chris has corrected a lot of these, so and he's just improved their processes for the school. So I think it was a lot with the previous administrator. Internal controls for food service claims. So this one, so when the school submits food service reimbursements, they have to submit their count that they do, that the school does, and then they also have the count that the vendor has on the invoices. So I guess there was some reimbursement claims that the school did not have backup for. And then I know, Chris, you corrected this process also, right? So this should be corrected next year. We do, the school keeps an internal student lunch count that they go off of when submitting their lunch claims. Right? Did I say that right, Chris? Because I know you guys do it on your site.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I have all the records being sent to me so that we can retrieve them for the next audit. So monthly, I receive those as well. We have our counts, and the counts are what we use to file the claim. So,
yep. And the next one is internal controls over payroll. There was just some employee files that were missing some documentation. So I think they were employees that had been at the school for a while, and they just had so some didn't have their federal background checks. I think they just had the state background checks. Um, some didn't have the original or the updated NMCA forms. Um, and then some had pay increases and they didn't have documents for that. And I'm pretty sure we did correct this also, right, Chris? Like we have a
Yeah,
checklist on the employee files.
you're right. Yeah, we have a brand new checklist that's more comprehensive. And we also are sending all of our employees this summer through background um, checks once again. So every 2 years, we will send them through the background check process. And we've also started to implement, obviously, this year, the ethical background check process as well. But the checklist and the background checks should take care of that. We also have stipend contracts for those teachers that qualify or who were issued a stipend. So I think all of that's taken care of.
Let's see. And then this next one, financial close and reporting. So there was a check totaling $19,917 that I originally voided in December because it was already a year old. And I should have reissued it, but I didn't. I guess when I voided it and I should have reissued it right away, but I did not. So there was a check kind of sticking out there that wasn't cash. I reissued that check this year. So this is also corrected. But this is my fault. I did not realize I didn't reissue the check right away. And normally our normal process is when the check is over a year, we do void it, but we should probably reach out to the vendor to see if we do need to reissue the check. I think just this time I voided it and I wasn't able to reissue it right away.
And the vendor didn't come back at us wanting to know where their money was?
No, they never called the school or anything. So I didn't even snap about it until the auditor was saying there was more revenue showing. But we did reissue the check, so hopefully they cash it right away.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. And those were that was the last one. So a lot of these have been corrected already, and they were corrected last year too. It was just the samples that they pulled were at the beginning of the year when I guess the processes were not very good. So, but we
So,
did a lot of these.
so this should be, so if this was the audit for the year ending June 30th, 2025,
Yep.
then this should be the end of our problems, hopefully from the prior administration. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is just kind of cleanup of some of those problems that had been happening, but okay, they were impacting us. So now that we have all these new protocols and all these new things in place, all those kind of gaps have been tightened up.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good news then.
Real quick. So if the employees that have been there the longest that didn't have those background checks or, the proper what was it? The documents. Did we get dinged for that last year as well? If that was something they caught this year and if they didn't have that updated, I guess.
Yeah, so if we didn't have it last year, we should have corrected it right away. I think next year they're gonna pull a different set of samples. They won't pull the same ones. So hopefully they're all correct. But I know sometimes they'll pull older employees and then sometimes they'll pull like a new file to see if the school has corrected policies in place. So yeah, it just depends. Hopefully we won't have that issue next year.
Yeah, there were a lot of things within the files that were missing or just incomplete, right? Background checks being one. There were some teachers that, I mean, this year no one had contracts that had been issued. I hadn't seen a stipend contract in place prior. to this year as well. And so we put together the checklist to make sure that we're more consistent, and Courtney and I can verify. But in addition to that, I've worked with Palms, and Palms gave me a list of recommendations and changes we needed to make that ranged from even affidavits that are kind of an informal ethical background check for all of our contractors and employees. And then we have a new application, an employment application that's been put in place. And then, of course, the ethical background check itself. So those are just some new additions that I think will shore everything up for this year as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, hopefully that's all behind us and yeah. Does this have any impact on our funding, is there any impact to us with these findings, or just for us to know and correct them?
No, it's just pretty much for us to know and correct it. I think the only thing it really can affect is when we go up for renewal, the PC will ask about the material weakness findings. And out of those ones, the main one was the food service one. Even though it was a small amount, the auditors had explained because it's, I guess, the reimbursement and the process, it's a more severe one because people do a lot of fraudulent food service claims sometimes just to get more revenue and stuff.
And I will say that working with the Public Education Commission through some of our issues when I've gone up, and of course, Chair Carlson has heard this as well. They're saying the vast majority of charter schools have that same finding for the food service program. I guess it's become very prevalent to where a lot of them are receiving the rating of does not meet, because this has become pretty common in terms of the documentation piece, tracking, and then the claims. So I think we have a good system in place right now, and we'll continue to work on it through or over the course of the school year. I think we've already kind of figured it out, and we have a more streamlined process.
So it's such a complicated process, this food service. Is it because it's a federal fund? I mean, it seems like this food service has been haunting us for a couple of years.
Well, so in the previous year, we got a food service finding because the school didn't have the program in place, but we had paid for food. So we had to move like 30,000 into operational to pay for that. But then this year, it was just the school didn't have that particular month student count that the school does. I know when I asked the school, they had sent me like the vendor count, but the auditors want to see what the school, like the school's counts, because the vendor can say so much because they want to get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they want you to,
yeah,
exactly. They want you to physically count and tick those things off and have daily counts. Yeah, so that's what they look for internally.
Do most of our kids use the food service? I mean, are they using it? What do they do for lunch?
And that's why we have it looks like we have a pretty significant balance, right? Ashley, it looks like we aren't spending down those funds at the rate that we probably should, or maybe I'm seeing it wrong.
So we are spending it down. I think when we talked about it last, the revenues and expenses are pretty hand in hand with each other. Like we're not making more money off of it.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that balance, one thing that I do know is the students are very fond of the food. The food just isn't of good quality. So something to consider for next year, because this current vendor has reached out to me regarding the RFP process and wanting us to go back with them, is trying out a new company that the students might take an interest in more so than what they have now, because the meals now students don't participate in the food service program. To make a long story short, they don't like the food, and pizza days are Mondays, and that's pretty popular. Short of that, it doesn't fare well here. So we might want to look at genuine foods and some other options.
So there are some other options that might provide a different palette of food that our kids might like.
Yeah, and they'll do taste tests and things like that, so we can have you all come if you're interested, and of course a panel of students. I have a school health advisory committee that is based on the requirement by New Mexico and the nutrition policy. So they'd be a big part of it, parents and all community members, because we want them to eat, we want them to fuel their brains, we want them, and really that
Yeah.
contributes to their behavior and conduct. Because when they're hungry, they start acting like kids that are hungry or adults. So, yeah, I think a change would be good for our students, and of course, it just depends on pricing, and we'll have to all work together.
I have a quick question though. Don't students historically despise the food no matter what school you go to, no matter what the
Historically,
circumstances are?
you're correct. You're correct. I don't think there would ever be one vendor or food service provider that can appease every single student. They have interesting palates. But I will tell you, there are some food service providers that have a more appealing menu. For example, at my previous school, we used Genuine Foods. Genuine Foods brought in a taste test or a sampling for all of their meals, breakfast and lunch, and they made things like French toast casserole in the morning that was warm. They had green chili chicken enchiladas for students during the week for lunch. They had just a variety of things, and even, pinwheel sandwiches. Right now, we get a lot of chicken nuggets. They eat Frito pie weekly. They're just things that the kids really aren't interested in, unfortunately, and that's their entire menu. They don't have other offerings.
But, okay, but do you have some kind of measuring device to determine whether the quality of the food?
They don't have to meet the nutrition standards set forth by the public education department, but to answer your question, I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't be able to predict. It would be a total hypothesis to say if we switched providers, the students would take full advantage and suddenly nutrition wouldn't be our issue.
Okay.
Yeah,
We all kind of become toddlers when it's time to eat. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's true. But what I really want to do is I'd love to get input from the school health advisory committee, because if they're interested, it would behoove the school to at least have the samplings and to see if students would get into that kind of lunch if they had a different menu. And if not, or if it's going to be too expensive based on the award that we received, then obviously that would be a bad move, business move. We're paying out of operational for meals that the students may or may not eat.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good plan moving forward as far as food service, and then hopefully we'll, do all
Yeah.
the things.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Ashley or Director Jones regarding the audit? Kind of on mute, Jen. Saw your lips moving. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to, I guess we should probably have you do your director's report in conjunction with the action items, Director Jones, since they're going to be co-mingled anyway. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Might be more efficient. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'll try to get through these things very quickly, but as usual, I have the different areas on the left-hand side, and if after each area if we're finished with the area, you're more than welcome to ask any questions that you have, or you can stop me as we go. So starting with facilities, 2026, the session was a really good one for us, and I'm sure you're already aware of this, but we have $650,000 that has been committed to the school by legislators. So this is with respect to special capital outlay. We had a really successful, I guess, campaign out there. We met with 12 of the 17 legislators that we targeted. They were very receptive to our needs and listening to, background on the school. So we're excited about that. We should have access to those funds. I couldn't give you the date. Ashley would be able to tell you more about that, but we do know that that's been committed to the school, and the governor has signed off, I believe, right, Ashley, on all of it.
I believe so.
on the 7th, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully, and that'll really help us with, of course, heating and cooling and all the other needs that we have. So we'll have to come back together as a board and then reprioritize based on the funding that we've received. So we're happy about that. Next thing is our fencing project. We know that we had a delay. We had a stop put to our fencing project because the city came and said that we didn't apply for the appropriate permitting. By we, I mean the vendor, Albuquerque Fencing. There was also some zoning issues. We had a meeting with the city, and really based on Mr. Conforti's advice and his relationships with, Nicole Rogers and other people, what they stated is, well, we're a state entity, so we should be exempt from all of the zoning issues that they're throwing at us. And so the thing that I went into the meeting with was just that. We're a state charter school. State tax dollars have purchased our buildings. We're authorized by the Public Education Commission. And so, we have a lease purchase arrangement that's approved by the state as well. And so we shouldn't have this issue. We should be exempt. We also brought up APS and how APS seems to be exempt from all, restrictions when it comes to zoning. So they went and they worked with their director, who's an attorney, and they contacted their law department, and they agreed that we're a state entity. So they allowed us to go ahead and continue the fencing project immediately. And today they're on site and they are completing the project or working toward completing the project, and they should have the entire fencing project finished within 2 weeks. So we're really excited about that. That worked out very well for us. It's hard to have things that are left unfinished. I think it's a bad look for the school and certainly didn't make us look very good when we've made that commitment and we have families coming out looking at fencing that's half complete with signs, city warning signs. That wasn't good. So I'm really excited about that. The next thing is we, on the south side, the new bank building that we've acquired, we have vinyl that's been placed over the windows and doors. So we had them wrapped and it has our logos and it has some student work. So that's a really attractive piece that we can add to, as we go. We're hoping to do a landscaping project right in front of it. And of course, now we'll have fencing, so it'll be secure. But it looks good and it's very attractive from the street. And then the last thing is I am working on obtaining marquee quotes so we can have that big digital sign right there on the corner of Central and Washington to again give announcements, let people know that we're here, showcase student work, important dates for families, but also work with the city. Mr. Conforti always has really good ideas about how we can collaborate because it is Route 66. The centennials here, it would be a good collaborative effort for us to work, even with the city, just to showcase the great things that are happening on Route 66. So those are some exciting things that are going on in terms of facilities. Okay. Next, moving on to finance, we did get our MOE notification for Idea B, and we did meet MOE. Thank Ashley. Ashley, thank you for that. I always ask Ashley about MOE, it seems like on a weekly basis, and she's been helpful in explaining it to me because I couldn't understand for the life of me how we were not meeting MOE. But we did receive the notification for 24-25, and it looks like we've met for the current year as well. So I think that's a good thing. And then to follow up, we have a new CPO, and that's Courtney Klein. Thank you to Courtney. That's a pretty grueling process that isn't very attractive to anyone. You have to have an employee. They do encourage it to be different than the head administrator so that the head administrator doesn't have total control. So Courtney stepped up and decided to go ahead and take the classes, and she passed her exam. So she is our new CPO. We did receive her certificate. We will register her with the state, and then we will go ahead and submit the notification to the Public Education Department, the Charter Schools Division, through the epicenter process and make sure that we, are following the requirements for reporting. So that's new, and I thank Courtney for her hard work. It's nice to have a CPO and make sure that we're fully compliant in that area, which came up in our annual site visit report as well. So thanks to Courtney.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. That was big of you. So next up is charter management stuff that I wanted to address. We had our annual site visit. That was really good for us. And I wanted to tell the board, thank you all very much for all of your support. the CSD Charter Schools Division was very complimentary of the changes that have been made, and they were very complimentary of the board for stepping into a situation to where you all had to make some changes very quickly, and they loved what the school's doing in terms of processes and procedures. So they got through their visit and they actually left an hour early. They got into classrooms. They saw what great work all of the teachers are doing when it comes to instruction, and expectations regarding instruction. So that was a piece. They looked through employee files, they looked through our emergency drill files, they do a lot of desktop monitoring to see if we have been reporting successfully in a timely manner. So everything looked really good. The only three ratings they were able to give us were areas that they could look for when they were on site. And the other things, the other ratings they'll give us will come before the end of the year because they do rely on other departments within their agency, and they have to finish out the school year to make sure that we continue to be compliant. But 3 out of the three that we received for those that could be rated, we met, so we were green. They did speak to the culture of the school. They did say that they left last year a little concerned about teaching and learning in the school. They had some questions that they needed to run by one another to figure out how they could help us. But, they noticed a big difference in culture and in, expectations and in systems and things like that. So they were really, really happy. And they said that they can feel that we're probably going to be green in all areas. And they were very excited to see what our proficiency looked like in math. And then, of course, our growth in proficiency in reading. They said that they believe, based on what they saw, that we were on track. So that felt good. It was a good visit, and it's always nice to get a good review. But of course, the work is never over, and it's a daily task of making sure that we're doing what we need to do. So the next thing is the personnel change notification that I mentioned earlier. I will submit that to the Public Education Department. It's a form that I need to submit through Epicenter, and that's their reporting site. Chair Carlson will sign that along with me. I'll submit the certificate, and then, of course, I'll report to the actual state. I believe is it General Services that we report to? Is it the Secretary of State? It's one of the two. So we have to make sure that we update Courtney's name on that site. And I have all that information just in a folder. So I'll get that done. Next is our district approved courses. I wanted to ask the board for your consideration for a revision of our courses because we've had some confusion. We have our charter contract, and our charter contract states that 60% of our students need to complete an internship. Now, that's only for our performance framework within our charter contract, but graduation requirements that are set forth by the state do not include an internship component, right? So what's happening is students are getting confused and they're wondering, do I need to complete an internship to graduate? Well, the answer to that question is no, you do not. But the school is in a situation to where if you don't complete it and help us, then we aren't meeting our performance framework requirements. So what I'd like to do is revise the previous list that I recommended, and I'd like to add the internship component to the required courses that we set forth as a district. So students, in order to graduate from our charter school, they do need to complete an internship. And I think that clears up miscommunication. It helps us to, at the beginning of students, time with us during registration and orientation, to be able to state that clearly. And so that it isn't conflicting to where, well, maybe I'll do it and maybe I won't. So I think that would be very helpful. So, the other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to add service learning. So an internship or service learning to our mission specific goal. I think that language would broaden opportunities for students and would allow for the school to go ahead and facilitate some of these opportunities, which can be in any area of service learning. Right now, Mr. Conforti is doing a great job. He and I are working together to create these internship opportunities, and he'll give you an update. We have some exciting things happening, but a lot of businesses they're really shying away from not just our students, but students in general, especially for paid internships. We have adults who are looking for employment, and the big thing is that it's so competitive that our students would benefit from an element of service learning to help them develop skills, but at the same time, the expectation for them to have a paid internship is a lot. And it's hard for us to find those things. So I think it just broadens it and gives us an opportunity to meet our performance framework goal as well as students' graduation requirements. The next piece would be a half credit in media literacy. That's something that they do on a daily basis anyway. And then, the last credit is personal financial literacy, financial algebra. That's something they already do. So the only change to this is the half credit of internship or service learning. And that replaces career readiness, which we can still offer. It just won't become, a requirement for graduation. So with your approval, and that's an action item on our agenda, I can go ahead and report to the state what these courses will be, and they will add us to their master spreadsheet. So I'll go ahead and keep going. The next is the lottery counts. I'll tell you right now, we're still getting returning student registration cards in. I don't see that our families and students saw it as a matter of urgency. They didn't see it as very urgent because they know, we are going to have spaces available. So they're trickling in when it comes to their registration cards. But the lottery is a process. And so we give all students an opportunity to re-register based on what we gather from them in our numbers. Then we open up a lottery that tells us how many seats we have left to fill. Well, we completed our lottery period. We had a pretty decent turnout when it came to lottery. However, we still have many slots available. Right now, we're at 90. I think it's above this now, but we're probably close to 100 now, 100 for next school year. But we're about to begin our new lottery round. And I'll tell you, during the window in which we held our lottery, we had a lot of students who were entering during that window, and that tells me they're paying attention to our website, to our marketing. As soon as our lottery ended on the 27th, all of the applications stopped coming in because they understood this is a lottery period. Now, when we open the window, we'll have additional applications that are coming in, and it's a matter of us now just opening or reopening that window. So right now, we're probably close to 100, but again, we have all the rest of the spring, we have into the summer, and we have our marketing efforts that we're boosting right now with paid ads on social media as well. So
Can I
hopeful
ask
those
you a
numbers.
question right now?
Yeah, of course.
Last year we had the problem of people signing up on the website and we didn't know it, right?
Mhm.
What are we doing? Is that happening this year? What are we doing in that regard?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We're actually monitoring that on a daily basis, Courtney and I do. So I gained access to that application portal, and I update the spreadsheet or share the spreadsheet with Courtney, and she's maintained a master spreadsheet of returning students and of lottery students. And so we've created templates so that we send out a notification, as soon as they enter the lottery, and then a separate notification as soon as we've selected them through the lottery. We're using a randomizer to do so, but we're checking that application portal on a daily basis. And that's where I've seen that during that window, they were applying. And then once the window closed, they stopped applying. So that tells me we have the attention of prospective families. And I think as soon as we reopen it, we'll see our numbers continue to go up. But they know that they missed the lottery period now. So it's a matter of just reopening it. The next round of our lottery will be March 28th. And the reason that we do that is because the guidance states that we have to give families an adequate number of days and weeks to come in and complete their registration. So we have to wait until the 28th. And I know that's a little scary because that's 18 days away. However, we'll start advertising the opening of the lottery. And, really, students who were to apply right now, we could consider them a part of that lottery. It really doesn't have to fall within that window. It's a matter of when it closes, and then do we have enough seats available for the number of students that are interested? That's the big thing that the PED wants. So we're compliant with the lottery. We've also made some changes to the application, and I think we're going to see our numbers increase even over the summer. I can see that happening. So that's all charter management stuff, governing council. I do have all the forms that are in the folders if you'd like to look at them, but we're still under our cap. We're trying to get to 25 per grade level. And of course, that's just our projection, our goal projection for next year, but we've projected 120. So we aren't projecting growth. That way, if we do get additional students, we'll have a nice little pot of money. For next year, curriculum instruction and assessment, I think I already mentioned this to you, but I've obtained all of the quotes for middle school math and ELA core curriculum through Amplify. We've already vetted it, and we have the two master teachers department chairs, Mrs. Reyes and Dr. Mueller, who have looked through that program. It aligns perfectly with our high school curriculum that they utilize. And so Amplify Math at my previous school we utilized, and it helped us to improve our scores by 100% in a year. And I'm pretty hopeful, especially based on the recommendations of Dr. Mueller and Mrs. Reyes, that it'll help us to really build those foundational skills in middle school. So students, by the time they get to Dr. Mueller and Mrs. Reyes, are prepared to just be fully, immersed in the high school level curriculum that they've developed over time. So that's happening for next year. We will go ahead and make that purchase over the spring so that our teachers can train over the summer. And then MyPath ELA and math diagnostic assessment results. I just wanted to tell you, and I'll tell you in summary, we saw some great growth from our students. MyPath is the intervention program that we've acquired for our students at the tier 2 level. And so MyPath for us is something that students do for 20 minutes a day in math class and in ELA class. And it's prescriptive. It catches them where they are as soon as they take the first diagnostic assessment. And what we've seen in our last round of diagnostic assessments is that our students, the number of students that have become proficient or advanced has increased, I believe, by 11%. In both areas. And we've also seen that the number of students who were 2+ grade levels behind, that number has decreased, and they've moved into the 1+ grade level behind, or the 1 grade level behind band. And so for us, we are really happy to see those numbers shifting. And I think the best thing I can do, because this is exciting for us, we're here making sure that we have systems in place to try to get students caught up in the areas of reading and math. And so for us, it's really exciting to see those numbers move. So I'm going to stop this share. And then I'm just going to pull up very briefly the folder so you can see it as well. So and this will probably be the only slide I show you or resource because you've already looked through the packet. But this is the diagnostic assessment. It shows assessment 1 and assessment 2. And so it looks like, when you're comparing the two, you can see that there are fewer students, right, that are at 2+ grade levels below. And you have more students who have now become proficient or advanced. And as a matter of fact, in the area of math, it shows that 73% of our students improved or they maintained. So they were already proficient, which is really big for us. So a lot of data that goes into this, and our teachers utilize the data to try to figure out how to move students, through intervention classes and through small group instruction in their traditional math classes. But that's a really big thing for us, especially in the area of math. So it's showing right now, for the diagnostic assessment that we just took, that over 40% of our students are on grade level or above in math. And remember, last spring, we were at, I believe, 8% proficient when it came to mathematics. This one here shows really great improvement in reading. Our students are great readers, right? And so automatically we can see that there's some growth. But again, for me as a person I like to promote growth to students. And that's even what our assessment initiative is about. Know your number. It's about set a goal and let's try to get you to the next proficiency band. And we can see that our students, 84% of them improved or maintained in reading. And you can see that the number of students 2+ grade levels below went from 36 to 23. And so you're just starting to see those numbers move. And for us, that's really exciting because the teachers are working really hard. Students are participating in that program. And I think it was important to share that with you all.
Good news.
Yeah, so we're hopeful. And that's what the PED said too. Looking at your data we shared all the data with the PED. They said, I believe you guys are going to see some gains. And I have to agree with them. I think we're going to see some great gains. All right, so moving along, that's curriculum and instruction policy. There's a special education handbook that we're going to adopt. Now, one thing that we've noticed, and I want to give a big thanks to Miss Vasquez, Mariana Vasquez. She's our special education coordinator. I poached her from Explore Academy, and she's really helped us to shore up special education. I mean, from in all regards, from understanding accommodations and modifications and making sure staff are trained in how to implement those to all the behind the scenes things with students getting caught up on all of their evaluations, making sure that IEPs are held in a timely manner so that we can have a good designation. She's really cleaned up a lot. And so one thing that we realize is that we don't have special education policies. So what we are doing now is we're acquiring a special education handbook from a law office. And that's the same thing we do with our employee and student handbooks. We get them from our attorney, and most schools actually purchase them from our attorney. And it's a template that includes all of the current updates from IDEA. It includes some of the new state statutes and requirements since, the state's constantly changing as well. But most of this is handed down from or at the federal level. So we are acquiring this handbook. It's about $5,000, and then the next thing will be policy implementation and creating procedural directives so that everyone understands how to make sure that we maintain that level of compliance. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that to let you know that that is a purchase that's being made. That will be a handbook that the board will have to adopt or choose to adopt, of course, after some discussion with Ms. Vasquez. But those are things that are, coming up and that we're realizing the school had been missing. So there's a lot that this handbook will help us with when it comes to our population of students that we have about a 47% special education or students who qualify for special education services. Next thing during the April meeting, again, the handbook policy revisions will be brought to your attention. There are some things that we need to change through the School Health Advisory Committee. I'll tell you one thing that the students are screaming for is to get their caffeine back. uh, they, I think they finally have forgiven me for taking it away. Well, in collaboration with the teachers' recommendations. Obviously, I didn't make that up myself, but our kids are very upset about that. And it's one thing that I think it's a concession. Again, there isn't a study that's pointing out for our specific school that caffeine is contributing to poor behavior or academic deficiencies. But one thing I will recommend is not allowing energy drinks. I think those are unhealthy for students. And it's one thing to bring in a soda with your lunch, a Dr. Pepper, and drink it with your sandwich. It's another thing to bring three energy drinks and drink all of those in one sitting in math class, and we're expecting that you're focused on instruction. You're more focused on trying to keep your heart under control. So that's something that I would like to bring to the board, depending on the recommendations of students and community members, staff members that are a part of our school health advisory committee. But there are some other handbook revisions that need to be made in terms of dress code and other things as well. So that'll be for the April meeting. And then finally, graduation, so you all know, is May 15th. It'll be at 10:30 a.m. at the Lobo Theater. We have a lot of upcoming dates, and I hope and I believe that I did copy you all I try to copy you all on the communication I send to families. And with that, I did create a document that includes all important dates for the remainder of the school year. So not only do we have this exciting graduation, obviously it's always a good event and a good ceremony for our students to acknowledge them, but we have a film festival that's coming up in May. All the great animation work and film projects that they do with Mr. Conforti, Mr. Shu, Mr. Kitos. We're going to have that at the Guild Theater. We have an expo that's coming up. The second expo will be in April. So if I haven't already shared it with you, I will. I will check my emails to make sure that you've received it. It's also on the website, just so you know. Next up is New Mexico Dash. I did submit the New Mexico Dash plan and I'm awaiting approval. That's the 90-day school improvement plan. And as soon as we have that, I will go ahead and submit the updates. It has to do with all the intervention efforts that we're making, all of the initiatives that we have. So I'll keep you updated on that as soon as I receive one. And then I will be issuing letters of renewal and non-renewal, most likely in April, for all of our staff. I've been really happy with our staff because I have made a tremendous amount of changes. And, it's difficult. And at the beginning, it was difficult for them, I would imagine. But everyone has really championed the changes. And even if they're mad at me for a day, or overwhelmed for a day. They've really stepped up and they've done a really good job. So, I just want to preface what's to come with the renewal letters and non-renewal letters. Obviously, it's up to us as a board and as the head administrator to figure out what's best for the school in terms of the business practice and what's best for teaching and learning, what's good for students. And so we'll make those decisions coming up soon. But I just wanted to say I'm really happy with, the vast majority of our staff. And then finally, the school year calendar. The input that I received was the Friday structure. They were a little concerned about what that early release looked like for internships. And so, there's a couple of options that we can weigh. One is continuing with that early release structure to allow students to get out into the community to complete their internships and service learning projects. And then the other is to just create a system to where all math and English classes will be on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So instead of the Friday being dedicated to intervention classes for students who require the additional support, or for independent study for those students who are on track and who are completing dual credit and other courses, project-based learning, we could actually, instead of having that early release day on Fridays, instead we can go ahead and create an A day that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday that has features primarily all students would take their math and English classes. So basically, we're increasing the amount of instructional time they receive in those two core areas. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, of course, we would focus a lot on CTE, but all 5 days, students would also have CTE classes. It's just a matter of making sure that we have that extra day for core instruction as well. So the calendar itself is here. This will be the last thing I share with y'all. Okay. I also wanted to share with you the calculations because we had some issues this year. I want to make sure that we avoid it for next. Okay. Well, it isn't letting me get back to Zoom. I don't know. I can't share it right now, apparently, because Zoom isn't allowing me to.
Hmm.
Let's see. There we go. It was frozen. Okay, it's unfrozen. So here's the calendar again. I just want to go over the calculations with all of you because this is important and this is really what they hold us to when it comes to our budget calendar that we submit to PED. And then, of course, there's another department that reviews your calendars as well outside of finance to make sure that you've met the instructional hour requirements. So the daily schedule would be Monday through Thursday, 8:45 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. The teacher schedule would be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It would remain. And the reason that we have made this adjustment is one, it still allows for professional development. 3 days a week is when we meet as a staff for various reasons. But I also really need the teachers to support dismissal because right now everyone leaves and there are only a few people who help to monitor students. And so it's all the same people on duty ensuring that dismissal goes well. And teachers are okay doing it, but it became an issue because it's beyond their contractual obligation in terms of hours. So now we have 15 minutes that the teachers who have said we're more than willing to help can help us with that pickup process. And so it just promotes safety more than anything for students. It also helps us to meet our instructional minute requirements. So we have Fridays. One proposal is 8:45 to 1:45 will be core intervention and CTE independent study. That's what would take place. And then we have 1:45 p.m. dismissal until 3:45. So 2 hours that are dedicated to students completing their internships. And so, of course, our upperclassmen can drive themselves off campus to complete internships during that time. Students that don't drive can be picked up by parents. A lot of our students even Uber, where they take public transportation, really focused on internships. Those students who don't have structured internships that we've approved would participate in service learning at school. So these would be sponsored service learning projects that advisors oversee for students, which again helps us to meet our hours and helps us to satisfy our mission specific goal. The other option that I just mentioned to you would be a quick advisory period followed by a typical A day. So we'll try to make sure that all math and ELA classes are on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that Friday would basically be a normal day for all students, except we would make sure that they're in their core classes and that they have that, they're getting 3 big blocks of instructional time in math and in ELA. So those are the two options that we have to weigh. They both satisfy the instructional hours, which are here below. The PED requires 1,140 hours of instruction for all students. Up to 60 hours can be professional development. Okay, so out of the 1,140, you can include 60 of those hours as professional development for teachers, such as the beginning of the school year before we begin, we have 2 solid days of PD. And then when we come back after winter break, we have 1 full day of PD as well. And so what I've done is calculated the number of days, and that's 182 instructional days that we have. It's 370 minutes a day based on the schedule that has been proposed above. That totals 67,340 total instructional minutes. When that's divided by 60 minutes in an hour, we're at 1,122 hours. Now you're probably thinking, well, that isn't satisfying the 1,140 hours that are required, but keep in mind that 3 professional development days can be included as instructional time. So ultimately what that means when I factored those back in, we're at 68,450 minutes. When we do that calculation and turn those into hours, we're at 1,140 hours, right on the money. So the second proposed draft allows us to go ahead and end school 1 day sooner, and then it allows us to extend our fall break by 1 day as well. So those 3 days of professional development, as they're factored back in, allows us to go ahead and also end school earlier and to have a longer fall break for students. So instead of the 9th and the 12th being fall break in October, it would be the 8th, the 9th, and the 12th. And instead of ending on May 28th, we would end on May 27th. So that's kind of the final iteration of the calendar. We have some things that we just need to identify times and dates for, but these are exciting things for students as well. So really they don't need to be a part of the actual calendar. Only the dates of instruction and instructional hours need to be approved. So that's where we are. And I'd love for you to ask any questions that you have.
So one of the prior reports you gave, you had the day going till 4. Is that for the remainder of this year? And then next year we switch over to the 8:45 to 3:45? Is that?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for that question. And one of the things that the students also said is, well, then you need to give us a longer lunch. If you're going to extend our day, you need to give us a longer lunch. One thing important to understand is passing periods and lunches are not included, cannot be counted toward instructional minutes. I don't think students really understand that. But one thing they are getting is they're getting a 40-minute lunch now because we factored in the passing periods as well. We're such a small school, they get directly to lunch, right? So it isn't like we have traditional passing periods like a Volcano Vista type school where you walk for 20 minutes to get to the lunch space. So really it is lengthened for students, but passing periods and the lunch period have been factored into this calculation. And one thing that I struggled with at the beginning of this school year is the public education department coming back and saying, hey, you're counting Saturdays as instructional time because some of your kids go to PE, you can't do that. And also they stated to me, you can't count, you have to have passing periods. The kids aren't going to just teleport to their next class. So you can't go ahead and count those minutes. And I believe this one is fully compliant. It's just a matter of the Fridays at this point. What do we really want to do as a school and as a board? I can see the value of just sticking to the math and ELA courses on Fridays instead of having the early release. I can see the value of both. I think my fear is that if students think, well, Fridays, it's for intervention or it's independent study, I just won't even go. And that's one concern I have, right? I don't want them to not show up because they aren't taking Fridays seriously. But at the same time, it allows them time to go ahead and complete their internship, which will now be a graduation requirement. It's important to our charter. But they've managed to do it outside of school hours all this time anyway. So I don't know if we really need an early release. I do love having additional math and ELA classes though. And I like that it provides a structure to where students understand I need to come to school and I'm getting extra math and reading. I guess my vote would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as far as the math and ELA classes instead of the early release would be my recommendation. Sounded good in my head when I thought of the early release and the intervention on Fridays. But now, from a practical matter, I think maybe eliminating that, my recommendation would be to go ahead and triple the math and ELA classes. But that's up to the board.
Is that what we're going to be voting on today?
Yeah, really, we're just voting on, yeah, we are voting on it, but it's really a matter of the calculation that you see below as opposed to what the daily schedule looks like.
Okay,
It's to see that we've met the instructional hours that are required and to see that we have, of course, start and end dates and that we're compliant with the law, which states we need to be here 1,140 hours.
okay.
Yeah. So that's it for me.
Okay, well, that's a lot there, but it's all good stuff.
So let's get into the agenda and we'll see what we need to vote on.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. There it is. Okay, there it is. So here are action items. So we did review the school year calendar. We did review the CPO change in my updates. We reviewed the lottery numbers and we know that we're still below. And so that's an easy one. There is the conflict of interest form, and really all that is, I've been talking to you about it, but I finally did get the template from Sue Fox, and all it does is it discloses any relationships that you have with the school. So it's for myself, it's for board members to state that I have an interest outside of just my function with the school. And so that's in your packet as well for you to review. And ultimately, all I'll need to do is send that to you each through Adobe Sign and have you sign it. And then it comes back to me and I file them away. It needs to be done annually. The district approved courses we also went over. And then the charter amendment is something that I would like for you all to consider. And I did describe it to you. And if you're okay with it, I think it's worth an effort on our part to try to amend that mission specific goal. I'd hate to get to a point to where it's so competitive for our students to get these internships, or for students to say, I'm not doing an internship unless it's paid. All of a sudden, we've put ourselves in a bind as a school because right now it states that students will complete media specific internships. And our students right now are just kind of resisting the internship process in some cases because they want to be paid. Service learning opens up, any internship opens up the opportunity for us to place them anywhere they're interested in, even if it's unpaid. And then the service learning component just helps us to make sure that if we don't get internships, we'll make sure that we have a good, valuable experience for students in the area of service learning. So that would be an amendment request to our charter that goes through Epicenter, and it requires a few signatures, and then, of course, to get up in front of the commission. And then the approval of the special education policy handbook can be tabled because we didn't have it prepared and modified, customized for our school. So we're acquiring it now, but that'll be prepared before the April meeting. So that's it for me. I apologize. I said that I would be shorter, and I guess I'm just not very good at that.
That's a lot of stuff to go over.
It is.
Carolyn, Carolyn, I
Yeah.
do have one question. I just wondered how these new schedules will align with APS.
Good question. Thank you for that question. So the calendar itself aligns exactly with APS.
Mm.
And the reason we do that, or the reason I prefer to do that as an administrator, is because we see a lot of our students don't come if it isn't aligned. So if their friends are off, they believe they should be off too, and they decide, well, I won't go to school either because I'd rather spend spring break with my friend who goes to APS because their spring break is a week after ours. So I just won't go to school for 2 weeks. And yeah, it aligns perfectly with APS right now.
Good.
Thanks.
Sure. Thank you
Okay,
for your question.
any other questions? No, okay, so I think we're going to table item 7.
Mhm.
We'll take that off the approval, but then we're going to need 6 repetitive motions for approval. So Channing, Eddie, and Malinda, get ready.
Okay.
Let's start with the first one. Can I get a motion to approve the 2026 through 2027 school calendar as it relates to the number of instructional hours?
I so move, Malinda.
You guys are on the same. You guys are like, okay, we're gonna go Malinda and then Chan with the second. Is that correct, Chan? You will second it? Okay. Let me do a roll call. Malinda,
Aye.
Chan, Eddie,
Aye.
Carolyn, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to the approval of the amazing Courtney to be our purchasing officer. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you, Dr. Tafoya. Second?
I so move.
You guys, you and Channing. We'll do Melinda, second. Roll call vote. Dr. Tafoya,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Channing. Let's see your lips moving, Carolyn. Aye. Motion approves with all members voting in the affirmative. Can I get a motion to approve the SY 26-27 lottery?
Move Channing.
Great. Second?
Aye,
Second.
Eddie.
Great. Can I get a roll call? Channing? Eddie?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Carolyn, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Can I get a motion to approve the conflict of interest forms for the governing council?
I so move, Malinda.
Great. Thank you, Melinda. Second?
Again, Channing.
Channing, great. Roll call, Melinda?
Aye.
Channing?
Aye.
Dr. Tafoya?
Aye.
Carolyn, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Can I get an approval of the revised district approved courses?
Move Channing.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second, Malinda.
Melinda, thank you, Melinda. Roll call vote, Channing?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Dr. Tafoya?
Aye.
Carolyn, aye. Motion passes unanimously. And the last one is the approval of a charter amendment for mission-specific goals, adding the language of any internship or service learning. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move, Eddie.
Thank you.
I'll second, Malinda.
Great. Roll call. Dr. Tafoya?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Channing? Aye. Great. Carolyn, aye. Motion passes unanimously. I think the addition of the service learning is great. I think that really will be a good fit for our school and also brings in more kids to learn service, as well. So good move. Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, I know the whole roll call vote is really cumbersome, but that's what they require when we do Zoom meetings. So I appreciate y'all's patience. All right, are you there, Mr. Conforti?
I am. Can you hear me?
Hey, there you are. Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, just jumping off on that service learning, I think it's a great component too. And it will allow us to accommodate more than just the media internships. And related to that, as Carolyn, as you know, I run into my friend and neighbor, Barbara Baca, who's the county commission chairman almost daily. And one of her pet projects that she's been talking to me about is the Atrisco Acequia Madre education site. It's a proposed thing right down at the Central Bridge, right near where I live and where we both live. And she was saying that they would probably, it's an education site, kind of a visitor center, an education site, that they might want some interns who would do not only media, but it would qualify more as the service learning thing. So that could be a good source of placement for those folks. Some of that may well be paid as well. Also, regarding the internships, it looks like we have two students who are going to be beginning their internships with the new Chupacabras football in arena football team, and that whole sport event kicked off this last weekend. Their first game is, I think, the end of the month. The good thing about that is it could be a great partnership if it works out with us. Is that they would want our students to help develop media, but they would also allow us to promo our school on that media. And so, it could be a really family-oriented thing because their tickets are as low as $2 a piece to get in. And so, and it's right up here at Tingley, and so I mean at Tingley Coliseum. So, anyways, that could be pretty good for us. We'll see how that works. Hopefully, the students do well in that. One of them is probably going to be a pro athlete himself, and so it's great experience for him to do that. And so I'm really glad that sports internships are really good for media. Moving on, we did the legislature since the last meeting. Carolyn was with us. It was busy. It was a little bit frustrating. Thank you, Janya, for coming with us and helping out. That was great. Some of our students got recognized on the floor by the speaker and by Representative Herndon. Actually, Julie Radosevich, who's the legislative aide to Senator Cedillo Lopez, also helped chaperone our students around the legislature. And I was really pleased when I was doing other things. Students, we had two camera groups. They went out and basically enterprised legislators on their own. And I had given them a sheet of legislators to look for, and by God, they found them. And I ran into one of them and said, yeah, your kids got me in the legislature. It was Senator Pope, who I didn't even know who he was, but turns out he's a good guy and he might be running for lieutenant governor. And I ran into him over at Barbara Baca's, and she was having a little gathering. And that's where I also ran into Nicole Rogers. And Nicole was really friendly. That's when she told me about the fence thing that Mr. Jones was talking about. But she also told me about a couple other things. And I just followed up on one of them this morning, meeting with two people, Val Osborne and Chris Smith. They're with the kind of a couple of different groups. Val is the executive director of Nob Hill Main Street. And they work a lot with Nob Hill News, as a matter of fact, Carolyn. And Chris is also with that group. He's, I guess, the head of it, and he's a realtor. He knows Jerry Landgraf. It's kind of a complicated thing. The way I understood it, they explained it to me. These are different bureaucratic kind of areas. One is this main concept of a main street, and that's a federal and it's a city and a state kind of label that allows grant funding to go to these designated Main Street organizations. The other is a arts and culture district. It's a separate but kind of the same, and it allows for state grants and federal grants. And what they're trying to do is get our area involved, designated as a arts and cultural district. Seems like we should be. And so part of the problem is I didn't realize is that Washington and Central is the big boundary. Okay, it's the border between Nob Hill and the Highland District. And he said the problem is that Highland District has nobody has been doing anything in Highland District to do this. So they kind of want our help with that. And there's a meeting coming up on the 25th. They also said they want to do stories promoting Route 66, and they might want our students to help with that. I think they talked to Mr. Lopez on their way out about doing some postcards that they could pass out, and they want us to do some video stories. And again, what would be good is they'll allow us to promote our school in these videos. So, but again, it's just basically opening up a new pathway for some grants. Part of that money would come from the creative Services Department, which is a new department that the state formed under the Economic Development Department. And remember, a year or so ago, the governor got them $80 million for that. That's kind of the equivalent of the state film office, but to handle other art besides film and video. It would handle studio art, theater, dance, those kinds of things. So, anyways, it's a pathway to that kind of art. So Representative Nicole Rogers has been very helpful. What else here? Tomorrow I'm going to the biannual meeting of the C&M Film Advisory Board at the rail yards. We'll see how that's coming. I imagine they have about another year on that project. But one of the things I want to bring up to them to suggest is that we have kind of a forum discussion. This film advisory board is made up of media, film, particularly film educators, both secondary and higher ed. And I'd like for them to kind of organize a forum discussion on how we as media educators deal with the coming onslaught of AI. And right now, it's a huge question. Film schools are debating, should we teach it? Should we have that as our curriculum? I'd like to hear what Eddie thought about that at some point. UCLA, all the big Hollywood universities, UCLA, USC, they're all incorporating AI in their curriculum. And so whether we like it or not, it's here. Adobe, Photoshop, and Premiere is incorporating AI into that software platforms. And rather than the kids just doing it themselves, we need to kind of take the bull from the horns and lay out kind of parameters for its use, and perhaps even figure out how to incorporate it into our curriculum. I'd like to hear what other educators are thinking about this. So that's what I'm going to propose tomorrow. Anyways, that's all I've got for today.
Thank you, Anthony. Actually, that was going to be one of my questions for you today was how you felt about the use of AI and if there's anything that we're going to do to set those boundaries with AI, because just being even in the music scene and being in the local arts community, I see a lot of people who are really against the AI because a lot of artists want to help promote other artists, but a lot of those artists are also using AI, which takes away from the entire aspect of the art and the creativeness and even just promoting other artists. And so that was one thing that I heard from especially musicians who are looking for people to do artwork for their albums, but they're finding that some of those artists are using AI and they don't want to support that. And so that was going to be a question for us as a media arts school is there going to be a boundary with how much we allow these students to use AI, or if they're even going to use AI in general? And then the other aspect was about the resources, the water resources of how much AI takes up and um, the effects of the water resources that is needed to use and produce AI generated arts.
Yeah, those are exactly the questions, Channing. And it's surprising to me that the students are some of them are deathly afraid of it. Okay. Particularly if they're media students, they see that as a threat to their potential getting jobs. On the other hand, the paradox is a lot of those same students consume that AI slop, to a high degree, right? They're the ones that are watching it. And it's the scrolling just as much as the creation of it that, uses up the energy and the water. And so there's a lot of hypocrisy about it. And it's a tool. It's not going to go away. As I explained to them, the thing that's preventing its widespread use right now, unfortunately, recently the Supreme Court decided to not hear a case that would have appealed a lower case ruling saying that AI material cannot be copyrighted. Okay. And so the Supreme Court upheld that ruling, meaning that, hey, any serious artist who wants to maintain intellectual property rights better not use AI or they might lose copyright. And so that's what's keeping things in bounds. But that doesn't say that you can't use it for certain things. For instance, and Adobe Premiere is very complicated software, although our kids are learning that. But they're just adding AI, which makes it easier to use. In other words, you can just basically tell it what you want it to do instead of having to go through a whole bunch of mouse clicks. I don't know if that's good or bad, and that's why I want to hear from other people. I think from a writing point of view, there's all kinds of pros and cons. I was just saying, at our meeting this morning, Mr. Jones, the PLV, is that I think eventually colleges will not put much emphasis on SATs or resumes or any of that. They will ask proposed students to come in with a blue book and write an essay longhand. That's going to be the metric for, doing a lot of things, whether it be for jobs or for education. So, yeah, so that's why I'm interested in seeing what they want to say, what they're saying about it. I think we need to discuss it and figure out what I've said, because I'm not averse to them playing around with it. But what I'm saying right now is, first of all, they have to immediately up front, disclose they're using it. And secondly, they have to submit what their prompts are. And so anyways, and then we take it from there. One student did their project. He's pretty adept at these kinds of things. One student, with my permission, did his project with it. It actually turned out pretty bad. It was really sloppy. You could, a sixth grader using it the old-fashioned way could have done better. And so, so that was interesting that it came out like that. And so we'll see.
If we're trying to promote, this career forward artistry for our students, like you're right. It's could potentially harm the future of our growing artists. So thank you.
But the thing is that it's been pointed out that when Photoshop came out, a lot of conventional graphic artists who do everything by hand were very fearful, and they said this is going to cost them their jobs, and in some cases it did, but it actually created a lot more jobs because a lot more people, more businesses and stuff could use that for their own design purposes. And a lot of people got jobs doing that. And so, it's a trade-off. Media tools constantly develop. The same thing happened with photography. When cameras first came out, the illustrators for newspapers freaked out. They said, this is just not right, taking pictures, using a tool to take a picture of somebody, you know? And so it's always been that fight. So we'll have to see where it goes. And so anyways, I was thinking of proposing that to CNM, and maybe we could even host a little forum and we could record it here in the studio.
A good idea.
So that's all for me.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. And thank you for all your hard work and
Sure.
vision on all this. And it was a great time up at the legislature that day. So
It was what?
it was a great time up at the legislature when we were all up there with the kids, and it was really great to see the kids take the initiative and be so grown up and so professional. And I hope we got a picture of them up in the press box because they got to
Well,
go.
actually, I did a
Box.
video on that. I'll have to send a video on that. And but yeah, except for the great train wreck, right?
Oh yeah.
And so anyways, but yeah, no, it was good for the kids, and it's part of our civics lesson. And they were happy that a couple things didn't pass. The cell phone ban didn't pass. That was one of the bills they were looking at, and they were disappointed that the anti-book banning bill didn't pass, and so that was the other one that they were pushing for.
You win some and you lose some, but we got $650,000. So
Yeah,
that's
right.
great.
Right.
Yes. Okay. If there's no other questions for Mr. Conforti, let's go ahead and move on to our amazing and talented student representative. Teague, are you there?
Yes. I don't think I really have that much to report. Besides that we had 6 students from student government who spoke with the state at the annual visit. And that went really well. I was one of the people who was there. So, and like Mr. Conforti mentioned, like the students who were recognized at the legislature. So
Well, thank you for keeping us in touch with what the students are doing and wanting, and we look forward to your report every meeting. You're a great asset to have with us here on the Governing Council, so thank you.
Oh, I wanted to bring up one more thing, real quick, related to Tig and to his mom, who I see is here. One of the other individuals that represented, that Counselor Rogers recommended to us to talk to about how we might redo our block here on Central is she gave me the name. I presume you know her, Bryn and Tig. Michelle Pride with the UNM School of Architecture. And so I did contact Michelle, and she contacted me back, and we're supposed to meet at some point.
Okay, I want to take a moment to recognize Mariana Vasquez, who joined us while we were all chatting, and also Jania Rodriguez. She was up in Santa Fe with us for the legislature, along with her daughter, Ana Sofia. And good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the new old business and the informal roundtable. I have a little bit of a list, but I'll go over it really quickly. I do want to, back up what Director Jones said about the site visit. During my portion of the site visit with them, they did, again, like Director Jones said, gave us kudos for the hard work that we did and the quick work that we did last spring on taking the initiative to stop the damage, turn the school around, and get moving in a more forward, positive direction. They did want me to pass that on to the full board. They know that took a lot of courage and a lot of just vision of what we want to see our school become. So they did want me to pass that on to the rest of the board, that they were appreciative of our courage and our initiative on what we did because they were concerned when they left the site visit a year ago. And they're not concerned now. They were very complimentary. I tend to stumble around sometimes when I talk, but they were patient with me. So it ended up being a good, site visit in the end. So we have our graduation date, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Dr. Tafoya taking the mic. I think that'll be a great part of our graduation, and our kids are going to love it. So I'm looking forward to graduation. Tomorrow afternoon, the newly forming foundation board will be meeting here at the school. They are getting up and running. We have our state nonprofit status. They're going to work out the details so that we can file the rest of the paperwork for the IRS. Once we do file the paperwork, we can start getting money, and we have money out there waiting for us. So it's going to be really exciting to see what this foundation does. Glenna Voigt, who is heading it, has some really incredible ideas. One of them is getting the funding to set up a student production office. And I think that'll be real exciting for our school. It'll reach out to other schools so that we can, be more of a collaborative space for media arts moving forward. I would like to start running some ads to recruit 2 governing council members. We can have up to 7. I would really like to hear from the rest of you all if you have any ideas about where we can place these ads. Well, of course, we're going to put it on our school website and on our social media. I'm also thinking of places like, UNM faculty publications. So if you can think of a place where we might be able to bring in some people in the media arts field, but also I think what we really need is somebody with some accounting background to take over our audit and finance committee. We have a real gap there that I think we need to fill. So if you can put your thinking caps on, I'll be sending out, the proofs that I've come up with on an ad to see if we can add those 2 members, because we have a lot of stuff going on, and it's a good time to expand our board a little bit. I am going to, as a matter of protocol, last year we did the survey of the parents, teachers, and students done by Dr. Linda Paul. I think it's a good, prudent thing to do that again this year. So I'll be contacting Dr. Paul and setting that up so that she can get that out. I think, speaking with Director Jones about that earlier today, he feels that's a good thing to help him moving forward as well. And, it provided us a lot of information last year to make the difficult decisions that we had to make. I expect it to be a completely different survey this year. So, but we do want to know the gaps that we're missing, places we can be better, and what problems, that the student, staff, parents, and community think that we need to focus on in the next year. I am working on the tax exemption for the new portion of the building with the county. So that's in process, so we don't get stuck with another $18,000 tax bill. And I got a little bit of work for you governing council members. I am going to need a photo and a short bio that we have to put up on our website as per, I think it's the PED, right, Director Jones, or PEC? Somebody says we need to have bios and photos of us on our website. So that's the task I have for the governing council members between now and April. Take a good selfie, come up with a short bio, and we can get, and if you want to come to the school, we've got tons of photographers here that can take some really good glamour shots. So you have that option as well. And then,
Work. Thank you, Carolyn, very much for all of your help and for the site visit. I apologize that I couldn't be there that day. But thank you and Director Jones, Courtney, the other governing board members, just extending to the parents and our student representative as well. It was a rough couple of years, and I'm glad that we're back on track, and I'm just grateful for everybody who puts in all their hard work and just happy we're moving forward. It's really like you, Carolyn, it feels very emotional, you know, and
Yes.
I'm very happy and I'm working on my training.
Yeah, I got to
That's the
remind
other
everybody.
thing.
Training.
And training. That's always the other agenda item, but but thank you all very much. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, it's been a team effort to, get to this point from where we were a year ago. And today when I got here, Miss Courtney said that there was an affirmation bucket at the front desk. So I picked one, and I think it is really, I was really kind of tickled, and I always get on crybaby, but the message I got really was one that we got from the charter school division, and this is what it says. It says, "Your courage leads the way." And that's what we did by being a courageous governing council a year ago to get us to this point. So I think I'm going to hold on to this affirmation because I found it to be really quite affirming, you know, that we did have the courage to make tough decisions, not knowing where it was going to lead us, but we just knew we had to make those decisions. So I want to thank you all for all that. And it's really nice being in this spot a year later. So I'm not going to get all teary-eyed, but I'm getting all teary-eyed. But I want to backtrack just one little bit to what Anthony had said, Mr. Conforti. I do want to keep on our radar, and also for you, Mr. Jones, it's kind of a big leap, but I want to keep it in the back of our heads that we somehow anchor a classroom at the rail yards, somehow in the future. I think even if it's just a small room, I think it's important if we have a presence there, especially if there's going to be a bigger film thing there. And also if we have one classroom there, we can maybe use it as a carrot for our seniors, that if they get to a certain point, they have the latitude to go to our classroom down at the rail yards. I don't anticipate that happening next year, but it's definitely something I want to keep on our vision board. Because we are a state authorized charter school, we can do stuff like that. Go ahead, Mr. Conforti.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. I mean, as you know, Carolyn, the city brought us into this at almost day one, and somehow we got pushed out of it. And actually, CNM was the big benefactor. They've got millions of dollars of state money to redo that, and they don't have to build a facility or anything like that. All they have to do is pay a little rent. And what I'm thinking about, is to remember that came from the city redevelopment from Karen Iverson. Unfortunately, she's gone from the city. So what I'm going to do, I was waiting till after the mayoral election to see if everybody stays intact. In fact, I did see Cindy McCrossan, the Albuquerque Film Office director, at the legislature, but I didn't get a chance to talk to her. Apparently, she still has her job, which is good because she's a great friend of ours. So I'm going to ask her who we might talk with now at the city about that.
Okay, good.
I mean, they're a year away from being finished, so it's not an immediate thing. But anyway, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great benefit to the school. And, if when it does come on board, if Director Jones can fit in, senior students can work on certain projects on Fridays down there. There's a lot of things to be working out, but I think that would give us a presence next to the CNM people in the state, that'd give us a presence right there where it's all going to be happening. As you guys know, I always have a vision way out there in the future. It might be a little hard for us to see right now, but I think that's part of our destiny. Because like Mr. Conforti said, we met with them, Mr. Conforti and I, 3-4 years ago to talk about, or was it right before COVID, I believe? We met with them down at the rail yards to talk about this possibility. And while moving the entire school is a little overwhelming, but having a small classroom that's used as a carrot, for lack of a better word. Okay, I think that's all I have. Does any of the other governing council people have anything they want to bring forward?
No, thank you.
Yeah, and I do want to apologize again to Malinda and Channing for panicking over the site visit. I was sending out Zoom links. I was doing all kinds of things and we didn't.
No, I'm sorry. I've also been trying to play catch up with everything too. So thank you for handling all that.
Dr. Tafoya,
No, I'm good.
you good? You're looking good. We're looking
Thank
forward to
you.
your speech. Okay, if
And
there's,
I'm pleased that the fencing is ongoing now. It wasn't stalled in the water.
I agree.
I'm
Yeah.
very pleased to hear about the wraps too. That was exciting. So all these things are coming together.
Yeah.
Okay, with no further business, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. You all have a safe and easy time until we meet again.
Okay, see ya.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See
Thank
ya.
you all.